running the clips out right now because they're rolling out the big day. And this is what happened this way. As you know, United Auto Workers went on strike this week. And so she asked Mr. Trump about his opinion and where he stands on the auto workers.
Let's talk about the economy. And I want to start by talking about this big standoff between the auto workers and the big three auto manufacturers. Yeah. My question for you, Mr. President, whose side are you on in this?
I'm on the side of making our country great. The auto workers are not going to have any jobs when you come right down to it, because if you take a look at what they're doing with electric cars are going to be made in China. The auto workers are not going to have any. I'll tell you what, the auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump. The reason is, you gotta have choice. Like in school, I want school choice. I also want choice for cars. If somebody wants gasoline, if somebody wants all electric, they can do whatever they want. But they're destroying the consumer, and they're destroying the auto workers. The auto workers will not have any jobs, Kristen, because all of these cars are going to be made in China. The electric cars automatically are going to be made in China.
Yeah, classic Trump word vomit. And lies, most of which aren't true. I mean, an electric car is still built by auto workers, right? I mean, and they're not made in China, okay? And that's what he came up with. Let's compare. Let's do a compare. Let's compare the actual president of the United States, the one who's not under indictment on multiple charges. Let's compare it to his statement today about the United Auto Workers.
Auto companies have seen record profits, including the last few years, because of the extraordinary skill and sacrifices of the UAW workers. But those record profits have not been shared fairly, in my view, with those workers. Just as the Treasury Department has released a report pointing out that the most comprehensive report ever dealing with how unions are good for both union workers and non-union workers and the overall economy. Unions raise workers' wages, they said, incomes, increase home ownership, increase retirement savings, increase access to critical benefits like sick leave and child care, and reduce inequality, all of which strengthen our economy for all workers. That's because unions raise standards across the workplaces and entire industries, pushing up wages and strengthening benefits for everyone. That's why strong unions are critical to a growing economy, and growing it from the middle out, the bottom up, not the top down. That's especially true as we transition to a clean energy future, which we're in the process of doing.
Yeah, tell me more about who's got better mental acuity between those two gentlemen. The one who yabbered on for a minute and a half about China, and how they should actually vote for him because he cares about them, or the guy who laid out a comprehensive discussion of the economic interest of United Auto Workers and our nation. Oh, and by the way, also now he's sending two of his top aides out to Michigan, try and negotiate a deal before this strike hurts more workers or hurts the economy. Yeah, tell me more about Biden's age. But that's not who they covered, is it? Nah, they covered Trump with no pushback and no fact-checking, nothing. I mean, it's shocking when Megyn Kelly does an interview with him and pushes back harder on him than Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. But here's my favorite part. Here's a little interview she did. Here's a clip she did with Andrew Mitchell right after they ran that piece of the interview with Trump.
First of all, what was your impression from that exchange?
Well, I think that you heard former President Trump, who is fired up about a lot of these issues and obviously trying to draw a sharp contrast with President Biden. Manufacturing has gone up in recent years. We should say that. But you heard him, I thought it was very notable, say he'd like to win over the endorsement of the auto workers. I read back that statement from the president of the union, underscoring just how hard that's going to be. Notably, the union has not yet endorsed President Biden. But look, taking a step back, it speaks to the importance of unions in this upcoming election and of this state, Andrea. This is the state, Michigan, of course, that former President Trump won in 2016, lost in 2020. It's always quite close, and he's clearly making a very strong play for it as well. And, of course, leaning into his deal-making status, which he talks about, of course, a lot.
What'd you see in there? Normal, right?
Wells Fargo has provided $5.6 million to help launch financial health initiatives at HBCUs and funded over $107 million to scholarships and programming for diverse communities. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing.
Just normal treatment, both sides coverage of a man who's under indictment for multiple crimes, who led a crowd, encouraged a crowd to attack our Capitol. You know, talk about his deal making. All good fun, everybody laughing and having a good time. They don't care that he wins or loses as long as they get the ratings, people watch, put their eyeballs on the show. That's the danger right there. That's the danger that both sides journalism. And not one of them, you know, what's really interesting to me too is I actually Googled that story. And there's a couple of news hits about that piece. You'll see, here's some of the clips. You see Mediaite, you see Esquire, you see even Daily Wire, because the right was mad that Trump was hanging out with the left-wing media, because, you know, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, they weren't there. No, it was just the standard, what we call the mainstream media. Everybody hated it. But you know what? Not one of those reporters could I find said something about why they were there. And here's one thing. So a little of my background, I ran a public relations firm for 10 years. And before that, I was a spokesman of the United States Army. I spent time sitting in background and off-the-record briefings with the media. We would bring them over to our command in Iraq. I'd get them lunch. We'd talk about the situation and send them on their way. Those reporters are going to tell you this was newsworthy. This is a newsworthy event, getting to meet with the Trump campaign, because, you know, they weren't participating in the debate. They're going to tell you that I wouldn't be surprised at all if you find out they're going to say they paid for their own dinner. Their organization paid for that fancy dinner because they didn't want to be unethical. Not aware of how it just looks bad. If you look carefully at those pictures I showed you earlier, if you look behind the pudding, behind the bingo card, you're going to see pictures of a briefing they were given, bashing pictures of Hunter Biden from his laptop and bashing President Biden. Yep, handouts are great. We're not being served by our media by any stretch of the imagination. And I wouldn't give them the clicks if I were you. That's why we try to tell the truth here at MeidasTouch Network. You know where we stand. We're not going to try on both sides somebody who's a criminal, who's actually been found to have raped a woman by a court, a jury of his peers. That's who Donald J. Trump is, not the leading nominee of the Republican Party, who has to be treated with respect so that we can continue to, you know, interview him and have access. And, you know, Fred, you know, it's just how it is. You know, the voters love him because they're so busy trying to normalize Donald Trump as just another political candidate and not telling the truth that he has multiple criminal indictments against him. That's where we're at. That's the norms and traditions that will end up destroying our democracy. We'll keep telling the truth here at the MeidasTouch. I hope you'll keep watching. Make sure to watch On Democracy with F. Wellman. We usually post it on Friday nights. You can find it all on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, leave a comment. I'm Fred Wellman with the MeidasTouch Network. We'll see you soon.